Exploring Critical Literacy, Part 2. Other scholars have contributed to the main tenets of critical literacy by arguing that texts are not neutral, they come with authorial bias, and they produce and reproduce inequalities. James G. further clarifies the role of discourse analysis within critical literacy. Using discourse analysis as a tool, critical literacy can examine social languages, decipher situated meanings, identify cultural models, and enact Big D discourses. Social languages are the result of individuals using language to adopt social identities. Individuals can carry several social languages, using them as needed to adopt a persona. For example, hip social media user, posh socialite, soccer mom, etc. Situated meanings are the result of changing the meanings of words depending on the context in which they are produced. One word can mean different things depending where, when, and with whom it's used. The word cheers can be used when clinking beverages during a celebration, expressing gratitude to those in the service industry, or to describe what can be heard during a sports event. Cultural models define norms within a context. For example, the arrangement of furniture in a room can dictate how a person should behave while in the room. Just ask any teacher that switches a room from tables to rows. Additionally, while nurses will go home after a shift in their scrubs, surgeons will often change into business attire before leaving the hospital. These are norms adopted and followed despite the lack of official rules and regulations. Big D discourses are constructed while negotiating power through language and identity in a particular context. For example, the Big D discourse of feminism now includes phrases such as the future is female and wearing white during the State of the Union address. Other scholars have contributed to the main tenets of critical literacy by arguing that texts are not neutral, they come with authorial bias, and they produce and reproduce inequalities. This can be seen in children's books, history textbooks, and science textbooks, which showcase the lifestyle and values of white Anglo Saxon, Protestant, heteronormative, middle class individuals. Critical literacy can help teachers and students challenge texts and empower students. Unrehearsed storytelling and collaborative composing and performing of poems as a critical literacy activity counteract language and normative expectations about narrations. Students benefit from the addition of drama and video to their storytelling. Critical literacy helps students and teachers enact social action, social change, and social justice. Lau argues that while some teachers judge English learners as incapable of engaging in critical literacy due to low English proficiency, they can learn to use it when engaged in meaningful literacy activities. The teacher in Lau's study noticed immigrant students were using derogatory racial slurs when describing their oppressors. The teacher had the students write out the encounters with their bullies and then had them examine the words they used to describe the bullies. Through class discussions, students analyzed the power dynamics involved and then rewrote the text in a way that asserted their own power without perpetuating the racial tensions that had been present initially. Students found it hard to see that they were sometimes the victims and sometimes the bullies, depending on the context. Power in this example was fluid and created by the discourse students used. Critical literacy use emerged as students wrote, designed an anti-bullying campaign poster, and presented them during a lunch for teachers. The study found that the Critical Literacy Project positively influenced students in the areas of agency and drawing attention to matters of importance to them. The teachers' concerns about enacting critical literacy with English learners transformed into appreciation of their critical application of literacy. This study is noteworthy because it demonstrates the successful paradigm shift of emphasizing the use of critical literacy skills over acquiring English proficiency. Critical literacy introduces the idea of the manipulation of the reader through multimodal means. Going beyond this idea, critical literacy can be seen as embodied performance in the classroom. Students are constantly making judgments about the world around them, the people around them, and even themselves, but they may not realize that this constitutes as critical literacy. By simply engaging in life, their bodies and minds are already engaging in critical literacy. Some of these judgments may be as superficial as the clothes they wear, and others may involve tensions they experience as students. Teachers can make students aware of the ways they are already using critical literacy through classroom discussions about things they care about. Critical literacy rejects the idea that a single story can represent an entire group. It encourages teachers to activate students' funds of knowledge while practicing culturally relevant pedagogy. Saunders examined a pre-service teacher's comprehension of multiculturalism and how she endeavored to be a culturally responsive teacher while student teaching a high school junior English class. The students in this class had systematically failed in other classes and had been grouped together as a last attempt to earn the required English credit. In other classes, they were bestowed with information instead of participating meaningfully. However, through the lens of figured worlds, the pre-service teacher assessed the world of the high school, how her students were positioned, and how to help them read the world in order to liberate themselves. She used critical literacy when she asked students to collect artwork, poetry, and songs which illustrated the themes in the crucible. Students also had a discussion about injustice and power when comparing the crucible to a rap song about a man who was unjustly detained by police. Students also taught and guided the pre-service teacher through elements of their own identity and culture to which she had not previously been introduced. Instead of prescribing a cultural and/or language identity to students, critical literacy allows students to be free to test what works as their identity emerges as their thinking within a figured world shifts. Children's books can be used with critical literacy, and the website Reading Rockets includes the following. Before developing critical questions, a teacher must settle on a book for a read aloud. Traditional children's books seldom address social issues of interest or importance to children, making the task of finding the right book a challenge. Hars believes that in order to have conversations about social issues, the books a teacher selects should meet one or more of the following criteria: explore differences rather than make them invisible, enrich understandings of history and life by giving voice to those traditionally silenced or marginalized, show how people can begin to take action on important social issues, explore dominant systems of meaning that operate in our society to position people and groups of people as others, and finally, don't provide happily ever after endings for complex social problems. One such book is A Different Pond. The publisher has also created a wonderful resource for teachers to use for a guided reading. You can begin by activating background knowledge. For example, some questions would be: has anyone moved from another country or have had family members who have done so? The discussions that result from the guided reading are the actual, like this panel. A post-reading activity could be this strategy. It can also extend into a writing activity. This concludes this presentation. Now see if you can identify some of the critical literacy elements in the activity I just described.